Hi RHC. We as a church have been working through the Sermon on the Mount, and in God's providence we're right at the section where Jesus talks about financial generosity. We planned out the sermon schedule last year before we had any idea about the Alcove Crescent land opportunity, and I'm so grateful to God that He's bringing us His word right as the time comes for our sacrificial giving. Over the next 6 weeks, we have 2 opportunities to give. In this video, I will share details about these 2 opportunities, our goal amounts, and how to think through it as a church. First, we're going to give to our Easter sacrificial offering as per usual over the Easter weekend, still hoping to raise the average amount we've raised over the last few years, which is about $400,000. We'll share more details about those beneficiaries next week. Second, we're going to start raising funds for permanent space, and we plan to start to do so at the end of April, just after the ESO. As mentioned earlier this year, we're raising funds for permanent space regardless of whether or not we're awarded Alcove. If we win the bid, we'll need it to build. If we don't, we need to prepare for permanent space. This is an opportunity for us to invest not just in permanent space, but in future generations as we establish a base from which we can be a blessing to Singapore and beyond. We are aiming to raise $15 million this year. It's a lot of money, but our church has reached that phase where investment into future generations is a privilege we all get to participate in, whether we give thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions. Now, some of us have expressed concerns that fundraising doesn't dominate all that we do over the next few years as a church. So how are we planning to do this? This year, we're planning for 2 fundraising windows. A fundraising window is a 15-day period over 3 Sundays where we will come with our financial gifts to give to our building fund account. You can find details online. Over that period, we will give generously, and then we intend to not have it dominate our life together as a church until the next window. Our first giving window will be from the 27th of April to the 11th of May, with the second later this year and following years. We do not plan to use pledges, but for those planning to give a substantial amount who won't have the funds on hand by the time of the first window, if you want to help us by letting us know, you can email finance@rhc.org.sg. So, how should we think about this as God's people? If you hear one thing today, let it be this. This season of giving is primarily a spiritual, not a financial exercise. Friends, this might be one of the greatest ways God works in your life and our church this year, rewiring your heart, our hearts, regarding love for God and money. Scripture shows us that God's people are to give willingly, without compulsion. Each of us need to bring our hearts before God and ask Him to guide us. Paul says that when the Corinthians gave, they gave extravagantly because they had first given themselves to God. RHG, this is a spiritual exercise because it is about us first giving ourselves to the Lord. Our giving is intimately connected to our relationship with Him. Firstly, we give in response to what God has given to us. Think about God's provision to you, as well as His promises to take care of you in future. Secondly, we give to be like God, who has given extravagantly. Think about how extravagantly God gives to us, not just in provision, but through His Son. And third, we give so that others can know the God who has given. Friends, we're investing for future generations and people to know this God. This is our privilege. So, RHC, over the next few weeks, can we as a church pray? Can we process these things individually before God? If this is primarily about us drawing near to God and having Him work in us, friends, it's possible that this fundraising over the next few years might be highly transformative for every one of our spiritual lives. Let's ask God to do that in us.